Hello, and welcome back to the Am I Successful Yet podcast. If you've been around for the first 7 episodes, you'll know that last episode I changed the name. So, on this podcast, what we talk about is reframing success through rose colored glasses because the version of success that you wanted when you were 17 years old compared to when you were 27, 37, 47 is all very different, even though you might hold the same values, the same purpose, and even potentially be in the same relationships. It's very important to start to reframe exactly what's important based on what's in front of you. So, today's episode, I am going to be talking about purpose. I have already done an episode in on values, and for me, values are your decision-making framework. So these are the things that essentially support you to make the decisions and be the person that you want to be. And different from, say, desires, they are the things that you just want right now, whereas your values are the things that essentially drive you and guide you and really support that inner map. But today I want to talk about something a bit deeper or something maybe as equally important as values, but potentially something that you haven't considered. So that is identifying what your purpose is. Now, if you've been hanging around here for a while, you'll know that for me, my purpose is creating a positive impact through meaningful interactions. And essentially, what that means for me right now is creating a positive impact in all of the interactions that I have with humans. And that for me is via this podcast. It is in the work that I do as a manager in my lawland job. That is every time I get on a stage, I want to change the life of at least one person in the room. That is how I write. That is how I show kindness to strangers. That is how I generally show up in the world. And for me, the purpose thing has really been a driving force and not the decision making framework, but I guess the commitment to something bigger than me. For me, this might even be somewhat a bit of a spiritual woo-woo journey to find out what this purpose is, because it's like this commitment to something outside of you, something bigger than you, some big change or big impact or big commitment that you can make that is something that is outside of you, and you have this blind faith that it's just going to all work out. And that for me is purpose. And today I want to run through an exercise. So similar to when we did the values episode, I want to run through an exercise where if you are listening in the car right now, it's going to be a little bit hard, but you can start to think about these things based on the prompts that I'm going to give you. The first one is, what drives you? So what do you still care enough about to get out of bed every day, even when it's hard? So, what is something that you get really passionate about? What breaks your heart or sets your soul on fire? What feels something that's really personal to you, even though it's not necessarily personal to you? So, your first, I guess, spark or thought when we're trying to create this purpose is, what do I give a shit about? What gets me out of bed in the morning? What drives you? That the driving force between making a positive impact was giving a shit about people who were burnt out but still brilliant, and they're trying to find their way back to a version of their career that they love, a version of their life that they love, but maybe they've kind of gone off a path because it turns out it's not exactly the way that they thought it was going to go. The next thing that I want you to consider as a bit of a spark, as a thought, is, what are your superpowers? This is probably one of the most uncomfortable ones, and this is the one that you kind of get people looking a little bit sideways at you in a workshop. But it's, what do you bring to the world? What is your superpower? What are you freakishly good at, even though you don't know what it is? So when I've done this asked this question in coaching to some of my clients, what they have said is that I don't really have any superpowers. I do, maybe I do lots of cool things, but I challenge you to think deeper about this. And if you can't figure out what your superpower is, then what I really want you to go and do is ask your loved ones. If you've got kids, ask them, because they are honest as fuck. We all know that. And they will give you your superpower. So I'll give you the greatest example, I think, the greatest example of how simple this can be. And I was in a room full of lawyers. So I was doing a workshop with lawyers, and one of the paralegals was sitting in a room full of very highly qualified humans and was like, I don't really have any superpowers, what about there's all these other people in the room? They're far more smarter than me. I just do admin. Now, for anyone that's ever worked in law land or in a law office, you very well know that that person is not just an admin person, and they essentially run the firm. They are the backbone, our admin people. So shout out to those amazing humans. But this person was like, "Oh, I don't really have any superpowers." So we stopped the room, and instead of making her really, I guess, try and dig deep, I asked the room. And we went around and I asked, I think it was another 6 or 7 lawyers, and I just said, "Hey, what do you think, this person's superpower is?" And the constant response was, "She's very nice." And I know that sounds really simple, but the reality was, if you're dealing with clients, and she was essentially the front line to speak to clients, to be able to support files, to move the files along. If you're supporting clients that are in highly emotional situations, and specifically for this firm, the highly emotional situation was working in estate litigation. So if someone's passed away and there essentially is fights over the estate and, what's left after that person's died. And so this very nice, in inverted commas, paralegal was the first line of defense essentially to support these people when they're going through a really highly emotional time. So her being nice was an unbelievable superpower in that firm, because that first conversation, that first chat, that, I guess, calming voice on the other end of a phone is insanely important when you are going through a really difficult time in your life. So if you're sort of thinking, what am I really good at? If it could just be as simple as being nice. Another example is just being able to explain or simplify complex ideas really good. I have another friend where her superpower is literally making you feel like you're the only person in the world when she's having a conversation with you. There is no waiting around for the next thought. She's not waiting for her turn to speak. She's not thinking about what she has to say. She's genuinely listening to what you have to say, and then responds actively and with intention, as opposed to sort of sitting there going, "Oh, yeah, I know something about that. Oh, I have a point about that." So superpowers can be interesting, I guess. I challenge you that you 100% have one. So have a little think about that. Now, the next part or next thought that I want you to consider in identifying what your purpose might be is, who are you here for? So who are you a natural cheerleader for? Now, you're probably going to be a natural cheerleader for your family. If you are a natural cheerleader for, say, women, high achieving women in business, for other lawyers or burnt out professionals, who are you cheering for? So have a little think about that. Who you're cheering for, who you care deeply about, who are your people, and what lights you up, or who lights you up when you know that you've helped them. And then the fourth thought spark that I want you to consider is, what is your lived experience? So what have you learned that you can essentially pass on to other people? Now, the reality of doing a purpose statement is that you're probably not doing this with no life experience. You're probably doing this, post burnout, post maybe a financial struggle, maybe post a divorce, a relationship breakdown, completing a really difficult course at university, living through something horrible like domestic violence, or, the death of a loved one or something like this. So what experiences, human experiences have you lived through and come out the other side and lived to tell the tale? What stories in your life have shaped your perspective? What are the conversations or the advice or the wisdom do you share with people and they go, "Oh, wow, thank you. I really needed to hear that." What are those things? So for me, in the current version of my life and where I'm at the moment, is that my lived experience is burnout, is being uncertain of the career that I entered into and not really understanding what the fuck I'm going to do with my life, because I didn't think I fitted into the legal industry anymore. So my personal experience is now helping me shape, coach other people that are going through this kind of weird transition phase in their life where they're like, this doesn't feel right anymore. How do I make it feel right again? So I've had that lived experience, so I can then share that. And lucky for me, I have had the benefit of education, the benefit of my own coaching, my own mentors, all of these people that have supported me through that situation in my life. And now I feel a need almost to now share those lessons with other people that I 100% know are going through the same things that I went through. Now, so just a quick recap on those. So your first one is your fuel. So what drives you? What do you care enough about to get out of bed even when things are hard? The second one is your superpowers. What do you bring to the table? And it doesn't have to be anything super complex. No one's expecting you to be Superman or Superwoman. It's just something that you are freakishly good at that you do better than anyone else you know. Who are your people? Who are you doing this? Who are you here for? What lights you up when you help a certain group of people or support a certain group of people? What is your lived experience? What human experience have you got that you've had learnings from that you can share those learnings with the rest of the world? And then I want you to create a purpose statement. So that purpose statement then is it's my purpose is to contribute my lived experience using, my own method or magic for the audience or the people that I've showed up for, using my superpower because I'm driven for these reasons. So you might not do it exactly like that, and that's totally okay. And it doesn't have to be in that exact format. You'll notice that mine is not creating a positive impact through meaningful interaction. But your superpowers, who you show up for, why you show up, or what drives you, and your lived experience or the story that you're going to share is something that's super important when you're trying to identify what your purpose is. And now there's lots of different ways of creating a purpose out there. And I challenge you to maybe have a look at a few different ones, but that is definitely one way to do it. Now, I think that's enough for this episode because that is quite a lot of information. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I hope this helps you try and start to get in touch with that deeper meaning that you're on this planet to have, that deeper impact, the reason, the legacy, the thing that you're going to leave behind. I hope that really helps you or energizes you or excites you to be able to start thinking about what that is, all of this episode. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you listening. That is today's episode. And I will see you on the next episode of Am I Successful Yet? Reframing Success Through Rose-Colored Glasses. My name is Rachael Carlil, and you're amazing. Have a wonderful day.